If meditation is so good and the evidence is overwhelming that it is, why doesn't everybody just do it? Not as a slogan, as a genuine question, because the answer is not laziness and it is not ignorance. Almost everyone has tried it and almost everyone has heard what it does. And almost everyone has quietly quit. The real answer is something nobody in the wellness industry will tell you because it would destroy their business. Meditation doesn't work the way they sold it to you. It works much better in what it was designed for. And that is exactly the problem. The science is not in question. Sustained meditation practice measurably sharpens cognition, reduces depression and anxiety, increases life satisfaction in ways that almost nothing else reliably does, and it slows cognitive degeneration that takes so many minds apart in old age. This is not philosophy or mysticism, it is outcome data from long studies across multiple decades and cultures. The question is not whether it works or not, because it works exceptionally. The real question is, why doesn't everyone do it? What it does on the way working? What it quietly takes from you before it gives you anything back? And why, when people encounter that, they flee? Think of a man, and you probably know this man, we all are this man, who have spent his entire life in motion, not because his life demands it, because stillness is unbearable. Every moment has something in it. Music in his ears on the way to work, thoughts about tomorrow while eating, plans running in the background of every conversation, the television on in the room even when he is not watching it. Not because he needs entertainment, because silence is a texture that he doesn't want to feel, terror and anxiety. This is not unusual, this is the default condition of the modern human. We have built an entire civilization of noise, not because we love sound, but because we are terrified of what we hear when it stops. And we've lost it all around that noise. Our intuitions, our mysticism, our peace, our stories, most of our humanity. And now add to this what we will not say plainly but all know to be true. There are only two kinds of people in the world: those who admit they are addicted to something and those who don't. The phone, the scroll, the music, the video, the next thing, the next thing, the next thought. These are not habits. They are escapes, and the thing that we escape is the only thing that we have. It is the self. One day this man sits down. No phone, no sound, just himself, the whiteness of four walls around him, and precious silence of presence of himself. At first nothing happens, then something begins to rise. Not peace, not clarity. Something more like standing on your feet after 3 hours of swimming. The sudden awareness of what was underneath it the whole time. A low hum of unease, an itch you can't find, a restlessness that is physical and mental at the same time. The kind that was always there, buried under layers of motion, distraction and noise. And within minutes, sometimes even seconds, the mind produces an exit. I forgot to, I should have done, I'll do this properly tomorrow. And he stops. This is exactly where most people live. Not because meditation failed, because it worked. It revealed exactly what it is designed to reveal. The moment you stop spending your awareness on everything outside yourself, awareness turns inward. And what it finds there is what you've been spending your entire life fleeing from. Meditation doesn't give you peace immediately. It just shows you why you didn't have it all your life. The moment you sit down and remove every distraction, you are not left with calm. You are left with everything you have been using those distractions to avoid. Every unprocessed thought, every feeling you postpone, every quiet fear that only exists in silence because silence is the only place it cannot be drowned out. Most people sit down expecting a spa, but they find a swamp. And they leave, they open the Pandora box and they don't like it. Not because meditation failed, because it worked very well exactly as intended. So here is the honest answer to the question. Meditation is not difficult because it needs discipline or time or a special technique that only that guru knows. It's difficult because it removes the noise before it gives you anything to replace them with, except yourself. And in that exposure, most people find more than they were prepared for. We are as a species remarkably skilled at not knowing things about ourselves. Not through stupidity, through necessity. The self-image a person carries, the story of who they are, what they want, why they do what they do, is maintained by constant unconscious effort. A thought arises and contradicts the story. It's quickly buried. An emotion arises that the story cannot accommodate. It is immediately redirected. It is not malice. It is psychological survival. The self is a construction that requires maintenance, and distraction is the maintenance crew. Meditation fires the maintenance crew. It sits with construction and let it be seen. And what most people see when they look without the buffer of distraction is not the peaceful inner self that the hot wellness industry promised them. It is something more accurate and less comfortable. Repetitive thought loops they did not choose. Emotional patterns they can't immediately explain. A restlessness so constant it has become indistinguishable from their personality. The realization, arriving quietly, that a significant portion of their daily life is not chosen. It is inherited. It's automated. It is running on its own and has been for many years. Their life is not intentional. It has been controlled. This is not something what people signed up for when they downloaded the meditation app. And so they close it. And it is not even consciously. They may have chosen to meditate consciously, but living it is unconscious. People don't avoid meditation because it doesn't work. They avoid it because it dismantles something they depend on. The wellness industry told you meditation is a tool for peace. It is not. It is a mirror. And the mirror doesn't show you what you want to look like. It shows you what actually is there. Most people have spent years carefully constructing a self-image, a set of comfortable narratives about who they are and why they live the way they live. Meditation doesn't validate those narratives. It simply shows you what is underneath them. And that level of honesty is rarer than any skills, especially the honesty to yourself. Because most people, if given the choice between truth and stability, choose stability, even when the stability is built on something that is quietly falling apart. But there is a threshold. This is the part that does not get said clearly enough. And its absence is why so many people quit without knowing what they left behind. On one side of the threshold, there is noise, boredom, resistance, the itch, the restlessness, the mind producing urgent reasons to stop. This is not a sign that something is wrong. This is the practice. This friction, this discomfort, this exposure. This is exactly what meditation is for. Not something to be solved before the real meditation begins. This is the real meditation. And if you stay with it, not fixing it, not analyzing it, not trying to make it stop, just staying with it, something shifts. Not dramatically, not the way transformation is usually sold, not a big enlightenment. More like a way the fog lifts. Without a moment you can point to when it began, without a clear before and after. The thoughts do not disappear, but they lose authority. The emotions do not vanish, but they stop controlling the direction of awareness. And in that loosening, something becomes visible that was always there, but could never be seen through the noise. You are not your thoughts. You are the sky, the space they arise in. You are the nothingness that this thing, the self, narrates itself in that. But this can't be understood from the outside. It has to be endured into existence. And endurance is very rare in a world that has made immediate relief into an industry. But that relief, when meditated on, you will find out to be misery. Things you've done not out of sincerity but pretending. The job out of necessity and conditions, not passion. The unfinished painting you yearn to finish but the noise doesn't allow it to talk. The trip your body and mind need but greed doesn't allow it. There is something meditation does that nobody warns you about it. If you stay long enough, past the resistance, past the noise, past the discomfort, it begins to show you the structure of your own mind. Not the content, the structure, the loops that your thinking runs in. The emotional patterns underneath the behavior you have tried to change 100 times and couldn't. The parts of your identity that you did not build consciously but absorbed, inherited, and then defended as if they were you. And once you see that clearly, you cannot unsee it. Clarity has consequences. You begin to question things you once accepted without noticing you had accepted them. You feel distance from the noise that once felt like home. You outgrow parts of yourself that felt permanent. This is not comfortable. It is not what the wellness industry calls wellness. It is transformation, and transformation is not attractive to someone that wanted only to feel a little better. It is the caterpillar cracking its skin. Here's what meditation actually is, stated as plainly as possible. It is not a relaxation technique. It is not a productivity tool, though it will make you more productive, managed, and peaceful. It is a practice of seeing without distortion, of turning the instrument of awareness toward itself and observing what is actually happening, as opposed to what the mind tells itself is happening. The gap between those two things, about what is actually happening and what mind narrates about what is happening, is exactly where most of human suffering lives. Not in the events themselves. In the story that runs on top of them, the commentary, the evaluation, the comparison, the projection. The mind doesn't experience the present moment. It processes through a filter of memory, expectation, fear, and desire, and produces an interpretation. And then it lives in that interpretation as it were reality. The moments themselves accepted us and we became alive. The suffering started when we rejected them. Meditation doesn't add any more filter to the process. It subtracts. It removes the automatic, unexamined quality of the filter. Not by destroying it. The filter is functional, it allows life to be navigated, but by making it visible. And the moment that filter is seen, it loses its total authority. And then you are no longer only it. Aldous Huxley called the ordinary mind a reducing valve, a mechanism that filters the full bandwidth of experience down to the narrow signal a biological organism needs to survive. And meditation doesn't destroy the valve, it just teaches you that you are not the valve, that there is something prior to the filtering, something that is aware of the filtering, and that thing, the awareness, is what you have been sitting in the entire time without even knowing it. Which may be the same presence in every living being, you, your neighbor, and even your dog. So, meditation is not a practice of gaining something. It is the process of losing what was never real. The base point of meditation is becoming the flow, not catching something in it. The thoughts you believed were you is not real, in the sense that they are passing events, not the awareness receiving them. The identity built from loops of thinking and habits, not as permanent as it seems. The belief that restlessness is your nature and not just a pattern you inherited, not necessarily true. And none of this is comfortable to discover. Losing is not comfortable even when what is lost was never yours to begin with. This is why so few people stay, not because the practice is too hard, because the honesty it requires is rarer than the discipline itself. There's one more thing that keeps people away from meditation, and maybe that's the most honest of all. Clarity has consequences, and awareness has its shadows. A person who meditates constantly does not just become calmer. They begin to see more accurately, and accuracy is not always welcome. You may see that a relationship you have maintained from habit no longer serves either person in it. You may see that a career you built to satisfy someone else's expectations or for money has been quietly draining something essential, your soul. You may see that the version of yourself you present to the world and the version that sits in the silence have been growing apart for many years. You didn't have the courage to crack that cradle. These are not some dramatic revelations. They arrive quietly, the way all real and good things arrive, but they cannot be unseen. And they require a response. This is why stability, even the false kind, even the kind built on avoidance, is genuinely appealing. It doesn't ask anything of you, it just asks you to not look too closely. Meditation makes you to look closely. And then it asks you to live accordance to what you really are. And that is not a small request. That is perhaps the most demanding thing a person can undertake, which is why most people would rather live slightly numb than fully aware, or partially safe than fully happy. Not out of weakness, out of a reasonable assessment of what full awareness costs. What meditation ultimately confronts you with is the question that philosophy has circled for millennia and that ordinary life is especially designed to avoid. What are you beneath the noise? What remains when the fog lifts? Beneath the thought, the habit, the identity, the story. What is the thing that is aware of all of it? Every different contemplative tradition arrived at the same answer from different directions. Not a smaller, quieter self or a better organized self. Something prior to the self entirely, the awareness that holds every experience without being defined by any of it. The silence in which every sound appears and disappears. The sky which is there when you are not. It is not a philosophy to be adopted. It is something that can only be encountered directly. And the door to that encounter is the one most people wake up to, feel the resistance, and turn back from. The noise is not the enemy, it is the symptom. What the noise covers is not emptiness. It is fullness, full of everything that was postponed, everything that needed attention before the modern world invented 1,000 ways to never give it. The unbearable quality of silence is not a sign that is nothing there. It is a sign that there is too much. So, if meditation is so good, why doesn't everyone do it? Because it works. It shows you exactly what you came to avoid. Because it removes the filters before it shows you what filters were hiding. Because it is honest in a world that has made dishonesty with oneself into a profitable industry. Because it asks for something rarer than time and harder than discipline. It asks for the willingness to see clearly and to live in accordance with what is seen. Most people are not ready for that, and it is not a judgment. It's just an observation. The gap between knowing meditation works and doing it is not a gap of information. It is a gap of readiness, of willingness to meet yourself without intermediary. If you sit today, not to fix something, not to feel better, not to achieve a state, enlightenment, but simply to observe what is actually happening inside of you, you will find resistance. That resistance is not the obstacle, it is the practice itself. Stay with it, not forever, just a little bit longer that you want. Because on the other side of that threshold, something is waiting that has been waiting your entire life. Not peace in the way it was sold to you, something quieter and more permanent. The recognition of what was always there, beneath every thought you ever had about yourself. And that recognition changed everything. Not because the world becomes something else, because you finally see it without the noise you mistook for yourself. If this landed somewhere real for you, not as an idea, but as something you recognize, sit with it. Not with the words, with whatever they pointed at. If you want to go further into this, into awareness, into what the self actually is, into the practice of seeing clearly, this channel exists for exactly that. Subscribe and stay close. The silence you have been avoiding is not empty. It is the only place you have never fully been.